That first cup of coffee in the morning. For so many of us, it's more than just a drink, right? It's a ritual. It's the kickstart to our day. But if you ever stop to think about the incredible journey that little bean took to get into your cup, well, today, we're going to dive deep into the amazing history of coffee.
So, here's where we're headed. We'll start with an ancient legend about some very energetic goats. Then we'll see how coffee became a global treasure. We're going to get into the science of roasting. Look at how we went from boiling beans to pulling the perfect espresso shot. And finally, we'll tackle that age-old question. Is this daily habit of ours actually any good for us?
You know, our story doesn't kick off with some dry fact in a dusty old book. Nope, it begins with a legend, a fantastic tale from way back in 9th century Ethiopia that really captures the magic of this discovery. Picture this, a goat herder named Kaldi is out with his flock, and suddenly his goats start going crazy. They're jumping, they're dancing, they're full of energy. He tracks it down to this one shrub with these bright red berries. So, of course, being curious, he tries them himself. And boom, he feels that same buzz. The story goes he took them to a local monastery where the monks realized these beans could help them stay awake through long hours of prayer. And just like that, the secret was out. From that one spot in Ethiopia, coffee started to travel. It crossed the Red Sea into Yemen, and by the 15th century, it was a huge deal in Sufi monasteries for staying alert. From there, it just exploded. Travelers and traders took it all across the Islamic world to huge cities like Cairo and Istanbul. And then, in the 17th century, it hit Europe, and its journey to take over the world really began.
So, how on earth does a plant, this local secret from the Ethiopian highlands, turn into an economic powerhouse? Something that literally shapes the economies of entire countries?
Okay, before we get to the wild numbers, let's just quickly get to know the bean itself. I mean, what is it? There are dozens of species out there, but pretty much all the coffee you and I drink comes from just two. Arabica, which is smoother and more aromatic, and Robusta, which has more of a kick. And the bean, it's actually the seed from inside a little red fruit called a coffee cherry. Now, get ready for this because it's an absolutely staggering fact. When you look at the sheer financial volume of what's traded around the world, coffee is number 2. The only thing bigger is oil. Just let that sink in for a second. The world runs on fuel for our machines and, apparently, fuel for us. It's a massive, stable global market because, for billions of people, it's not a luxury, it's a daily ritual. And that massive market isn't just an abstract thing on a stock exchange. We're talking about people, a lot of people. Around 20 million individuals across the globe get their income directly from coffee, from the farmers picking every single cherry by hand to the barista who knows your order without you even asking. All right, let's get to the part you can probably smell just thinking about it. How do you take this hard, green little seed and turn it into that fragrant, dark, brittle bean we all know? Well, that's the alchemy of roasting. It's where the flavor is really born. So, look at this. On the left, you've got the raw green bean. It's basically a little pebble, super dense, hard, and it doesn't really smell like anything. Then on the right, you have the roasted bean. It's light, it's brittle, it's full of aroma. The change from one to the other isn't just a color change, it is a complete chemical and physical transformation.
The whole process really happens in 3 key stages. First, you've got the drying phase. All the water inside the bean has to evaporate. Then comes the main event, the roasting phase itself. This is where heat sets off all these incredible chemical reactions. And finally, and this part is crucial, you have to cool the beans down, fast, to stop the cooking and lock in that perfect flavor.
Now this is where the real magic is. Roasting doesn't just make the bean brown, it creates a chemical explosion. We're talking about the formation of over 800 different aromatic compounds. That incredible smell of fresh coffee, that's a hugely complex symphony of chemicals, all unlocked by heat. Okay, so we have our perfectly roasted beans. Now what? How do we get from that bean to the perfect cup? Because the way we brew coffee has changed just as much as everything else in its history.
I mean, the way people first consumed coffee is just wild to think about. They'd chew the beans or mix them with fat to make these little energy bars. For a long time, the main method was to just grind them up and boil them. But the journey from that to modern espresso, it's a leap from just getting raw fuel into your body to, well, culinary art.
Let's just zoom in on espresso for a second, because it's the perfect example of this modern obsession with precision. What makes espresso, espresso? One word, pressure. A machine forces super hot water through this little puck of coffee at 9 bars of pressure. That's about 9 times the normal air pressure around you. And that intensity is what pulls out so much flavor in less than 30 seconds.
You see, a perfect shot of espresso isn't luck. It's science. It's this delicate balancing act. You need the water temperature to be just right. You need that pressure to be constant. You need the skill of the barista to create the right resistance with the coffee grind, and you even need the right minerals in the water. It's a true formula.
So, we've followed this little bean from a legend all the way to a latte. But there's a big question that hangs over all of this, one that millions of us probably wonder about every single day. In this long debate, is coffee actually good or bad for you?
We've all heard it, right? The conflicting reports. One day, it's a superfood. The next, it's a guilty pleasure. It can be pretty confusing. So let's try and cut through some of that noise and see what the actual science says.
Okay, first things first. This is really interesting. It turns out that how you make your coffee really matters. See, unfiltered coffee, like what you'd get from a French press or by just boiling the grounds, has these oily compounds in it that studies have shown can raise your cholesterol. But a simple paper filter traps almost all of them, so your standard drip coffee doesn't have that same effect.
And this leads to something that researchers see over and over again. They call it a J-shaped curve. So what does that mean? Well, compared to people who don't drink coffee, those who drink a moderate amount, say 2 to 4 cups a day, actually have a lower risk of heart problems. But as you can see, if you drink a lot more than that, the benefit starts to go away.
So what's the verdict? The bottom line from all the big recent studies is pretty clear. For most of us, moderate coffee drinking isn't just okay, it's actually linked to a lower risk of some really serious stuff like heart failure and even a lower risk of death from all causes.
So, the next time you hold that warm mug in your hands, just think about the journey it took. From a dancing goat in Ethiopia, through monasteries, across oceans, into a roaster, and finally becoming this little bit of science in your cup. Knowing its whole incredible story, how are you going to take that next cup?